of interest is Chris Christie right now. Why don't you ask Chris Christie how to build a bridge? The same question. Oh, yeah. Turkey, steak, and Syrian oil fields. I want to talk about the white turkey. I once talked about the white owl. WFTL, Steve, welcome to the Savage Nation from Fort Lauderdale. What's on your mind?
Hey, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I want you to put your mind around that God has to be logical in his relationship to us, and religion has to be logical. Follow with me a moment. If God is so powerful and all-knowing, he's everywhere, and time and isn't affected by time, and he has given us the freedom of choice, which is the most precious thing that we could have, to choose to be thankful for him, actually in this time of the year. But think about this. If God does not give us the most logical choice to choose from, the best choice...
The religious nut at the Thanksgiving dinner. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm sure you mean well. What are you trying to argue, that God knows what he's doing? That's why he gave us Obama and ISIS?
No, don't. I'm trying to be serious. That if God is all-knowing, he would have given us the best choice, because our choice is the most important thing.
Wait, let's start from the top. Do you think God is all-knowing or not all-knowing?
I would say he has to be, or he's not God.
Okay, so is God all good or not all good?
God would have to be all good.
Then why would he take a school bus full of Christian children and let the bus fall off a cliff and kill them?
Simple. If God has given us freedom of choice means that we are going to have conditions that are going to cause certain things that are going to harm us. But the end of this is a very important question. I don't want to dwell on it too long, but I'll tell you this. Years ago, I came to question God's existence, number one, and number two, is he a good God or an evil God? When I would see the evil done on the earth to innocent men and children, ISIS gets away with, raping 8-year-old girls, and no one stops them. I said, what kind of God is running this world that lets this happen? I could look living in the time. Slavery right now, no one talks about it really. They talk about it from 150 years ago, as terrible as it was. But there's ongoing slavery in real time now. And I have to tell you, I don't believe God is capable of controlling every act on earth. I think we have free will, and I believe that God is everywhere, but God does not control every action. I'll be back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUYCO. About all sorts of weird things. Make believe you're at a Thanksgiving dinner and we're just having fun. We're talking about the corrupt politicians. We're talking about the insane politicians. We're talking about the perversion of the Presidential Medal of Freedom under Obama. What would you expect? That he should give it to a straight-up person? Barbara Streisand, he gives it to you here. A President Medal of Freedom to Barbara Streisand. It's unbelievable to me. Anyway, then we got into the turkey that he pardoned, the white turkey. To me, it was symbolic. Obama pardoning a white turkey. I mean, it was a joke. Not to him and the gang, though. And then we got into the thing hanging down the turkey's neck, which I find personally offensive. The wattle, W-A-T-T-L-E. I don't know what it's for. You know, that brightly colored fold of skin hanging from the neck of the turkey or the chicken. Even a lizard has it. But I don't know, there's something distasteful about it to me. Lou, why do I find that thing hanging from the turkey's neck upsetting? What is that?
It's very upsetting. But it serves a purpose. It's there as a signal, as is that piece of skin that hangs over its nose.
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, the things on its neck are called a caruncle, and the thing hanging over its nose is called a snood.
Hold on, now this is a family show. A what?
Yes, it's called a snood. I'm not making this up. And
a snood? A snood?
Snood. S-N-O-O-D. Snood.
It's like a Jewish insult, snood.
Yeah, well, it gets better. And what they do, it's a signal, and they get red. And the more...
Oh, now, come on, Joe. It's a family... I told you it's a family show. Slow down here with the getting red.
red.
What, when they're around like a female turkey, the snood gets red?
Yes, when either they're around a turkey of the opposite sex and they're amorous.
Oh, thank God I was not born a turkey. I got to add that to my morning prayers, which is thank you, God, for not making me a turkey. I mean, if I ever looked at myself in the mirror during that phase of my, I think I'd throw myself off a bridge. I'd ask them to not pardon me.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
It is the Savage Nation. So, yeah, your president will bring in more Muslim nation immigrants than the entire population of Washington, D.C. It's on the top of the Drudge Report. He posted the headline. He didn't make up the news. It's an analysis. Coming soon, more immigrants from Muslim nations than population of D.C., 680,000. And I thought about this last night in bed because I could easily be misinterpreted because the left is so vicious in their assaults upon people who love America and want to be safe that I figure I should do this now. It's a good junction. It's a good high moment. Let me explain something to you. I am not at all skittish personally about other races or religions. I grew up in a melting pot. I grew up in New York. I'm an immigrant son. We're a minority family to begin with. So naturally, I grew up around minorities. When I would go around Chinatown and Chinese, all the signs were in Chinese. No one feared Chinese. No one thought ever that a Chinese was going to strap himself with a suicide vest and blow up a restaurant. No one feared Chinese. We figured they had their own world, their own ways, and everyone got along. Likewise, I'd go to a German bar, for example, on the Upper East Side at the time. I think it was in Yorktown. All right, so it was post-World War II, and there was memories of Hitler, but no one really thought a German would put a suicide vest on and blow up a church or an airplane. No one gave it a thought. So they spoke in German, and they had a little tendency in a direction that was a little crazy, but no one feared going to Germantown. I can go down the list. Pick the ethnicity, pick the race, pick the religion. All right? Nobody feared those differences in the melting pot that I grew up in. Now fast forward to now. There's only one religion that the world fears, and that's Islam. Now, it is true that most Muslims are not terrorists. We know that. But I have to ask a loaded question, and it's an obvious question. Why is it that every time they blow themselves up, they scream Allah Akbar, which is a religious statement? Why is it that they kill in the name of their religion, those who do? Let's say that they're a small minority of fanatics. Why do they always quote their holy book, the Quran, when they do the most heinous acts you could ever imagine? Raping, murdering, kidnapping, cutting people's heads off, burning them alive, putting them in a cage, setting them on fire, all in the name of a religion? So you say to yourself, so it's really not that they're different, as Obama would imply, is that we're xenophobic. We're not afraid of them because they're different. As I said to you, we're not afraid of Chinese, we're not afraid of Japanese, we're not afraid of Romanians, we're not afraid of Pomeranians, we're not afraid of Irish, English, German, Africans. But most people are afraid of Muslims, especially those coming in who make their wives wear full burqas. That's an indicator of something, isn't it? Wouldn't you say that if you were going to bring in Muslims, you would seek out the educated Muslim who has something to offer the society? Someone who wouldn't put his wife into a 15th century confining tent and treat her worse than you would treat a pet? Why would you want to degenerate a society in that direction? Why would you do that? Either you're not thinking or you actually want to set the society backwards. And so that's why I say to you, there's a reason people fear the insanity of this administration that wants to move immigrants from Muslim nations into this country in numbers that are astonishing in numbers. Same in Germany. That psychotic Merkel is going to, no matter what happens, bombs go off, Paris gets shot up, Mali gets shot up, she's still going to bring in 1 million Muslims. In a nation that says no more immigrants, you ask yourself, where does this insanity come from? How is it that the people are ruled by such stupid, evil leaders that would go against not only the will of the people, but common self itself? Why? How? Why do such leaders exist? Well, I'll give you a couple of answers, but All of them are so obvious it isn't worth even stating, frankly. But I think I've made my point. I made it very clearly. It's not that they're different. The liberal would claim that anyone who fears Muslims or make their wives march around, for example, in such outfits is a xenophobe. No, we're not xenophobic. We don't fear them because they're different. We fear them because we know that people who do that to their wives are most likely members of the most religious fanatics. They are the most religiously fanatical of all, and more likely to be associated, if not themselves, be terrorists. That's what most of us feel. We're not all stupid. We all have survival instincts. And we know when we're being had, and we know when we're being led astray. We also know when we're being put at risk. That's how we survived this long. You know, a man called me in the last hour, and he thanked me for doing the show I do, and he said, I thank your ancestors for having given birth over the centuries. That was the nicest thing anyone ever said to me. So I ask myself often, I guess my ancestors were pretty smart that they survived long enough to reproduce. Because I remember when I was a young biology student, the definition of what one generation was. One generation, I asked the teacher, what's a generation in years? He said, well, a generation means that you live long enough to reproduce yourself. Generally 20 years in a human. That's considered a full generation. The rest is gravy. From a biological point of view, you follow what I'm saying to you? So if my ancestors were lucky enough and smart enough to have survived the millennia, wars, famine, starvation, disease, the Black Plague, pogroms, and they survived it. It's a miracle that I walked the earth, I say to myself. And then I wake up and I see a maniac in the presidency, surrounded by maniacs, doing things that not only don't make sense, but put the entire nation and the world at risk. And that's why I get up every day and do the Savage Nation. That's why I wrote Government Zero. I'm trying to warn you. I am trying to warn you. I'm trying to awaken you. I am almost imploring you to bring a copy of your book to the Thanksgiving table and ask some questions of your relatives and let them look at you like you're a crazy person for daring to say zero military. And say, what are you talking about? He had over 6,000 missions in the last year or so against ISIS. Oh, really? Then how come they're still walking the earth? 6,000 missions with jet planes and A-10 machine gun. Nothing stopped them. They grew bigger. Well, I told you the story at the beginning of the show. He sent them out without enough ammunition to blow up ISIS trucks after leafleting the drivers and telling them to run away. Which side is he on? You figure it out. Is he really fighting a war against ISIS? You figure it out. Okay, so there's a lot to be talked about. And again, I'm trying to keep it a little lighter because it is the day before Thanksgiving, and it's a day that most people want to take it a little easier. But the truth is, it's not xenophobia in the American people that says no to immigrants in general and no to immigrants in particular from Muslim nations. And when you have a maniac zealot in the White House who says he's going to bring in Muslims in such numbers that they're going to account for more than the current population of Washington, D.C., you have to ask yourself three questions. One, how can the maniac get away with it? Two, why isn't he immediately impeached? And three, where the heck is the Republican Party? Well, the answer is the Republican Party doesn't exist. There is no Republican Party. It is a faction created that is a fiction. There is no Republican Party. They do not want anything that the people want. They want nothing except what the lobbyists who put them in power want, period, end of story. That's why they're running a clandestine scene, search and destroy against Trump behind the scenes. They don't want him because he's not an establishmentarian. He's liable to do what he says. He's liable to crack down on illegal immigrants. He's liable to deport illegal immigrants. He's liable to tighten up the government. He's liable to make sure that the government doesn't print any more money. In other words, he's liable to do everything that the American people want done. And as you know, these greedy people in the political world can't have that, can they? You count on a man who actually represents the people, not in America today. No. You can't have anyone do anything that the people want because the people are stupid. We are the white turkey that Obama pardoned today. That's what Obama thinks of you. Whatever your race is, by the way. He thinks no more of you than he does of that turkey that he released today. Do you know that? That's how arrogant this man is. One man's opinion, just saying. Now let's take some calls on the Savage Nation. Oh, please let's not talk about turkeys. Mike